Hello. So a few ITs have asked us to just demo what it might look like handling the next steps of a support plan. So hopefully this video is useful. My colleague Ben is going to play the ECT in this scenario, but I thought I would just kind of give a few tips that have been helpful when I've been in this situation myself. So the first thing is triangulation. So making sure that all the data is up to date. You've got everything at your fingertips in the meeting. I would also have everything printed so that it gives you both something to look at, because that's really helpful, kind of takes the heat out of a meeting a little bit. And then just be really clear on what the outcome is going to be. So we're going to demo a couple of potential outcomes for this meeting. So my colleague Ben will just come and join seamlessly to this video. And we'll first start with, if you've got an ECT that is on a support plan but has achieved 2 of the targets but hasn't achieved 1. So in this case, you would look to extend potentially the support plan. You think that they are close to getting to the point where they're making some progress in their target, but they're not quite there yet. So we'll demo that one first. Okay, morning Ben, thank you for coming to meet us. So
thank you for your time today.
As you know, we've got 3 targets. So we've got the planning for appropriate lesson objectives. Yeah. We've got behaviour, so following the correct behaviour plan. Mm-hmm. And we've got the tutor time target, engaging with the daily student briefings. I've spoken to a lot of colleagues that have gathered lots of evidence, and your mentor's been really helpful in that. And you've also provided some yourself. So I'm really confident that your lesson objectives, we can tick that one off. We've got lots of evidence to say that all your lessons have an appropriate lesson objective now, so well done on that. That's great.
You've worked hard on that.
Okay, brilliant. The tutor time, the head of house has kind of no concerns. They've done lots of learning walks, and they've seen your students are well informed. Mm-hmm. It seems like you've got a really good process there in the tutor time now.
Yeah, most definitely.
Brilliant. So I'm confident we can tick that one off too.
Yeah, thanks.
Unfortunately, the middle one, the behaviour management, that's something that I'm struggling to find the evidence for, mm-hmm. To be able to tick that off like the other 2.
Yeah.
So I'll just give you a couple of examples. When an assistant head came round to the learning walk recently, there were 3 children who weren't adhering to the behaviour policy, so weren't sat up straight. They had their heads on the desk. And then they circled back round to your classroom a second time, and those students' names weren't on the board. They hadn't received a warning. There were actually no warnings on the board. The assistant head came back into the classroom to stay for a little while, and she noticed that there should have been 5 or 6 names really placed on the board, and you hadn't done that. Mm-hmm. Is that a fair reflection of kind of where you think your teaching is at with the behaviour policy?
Yeah, I think probably it's better with some classes than others that I do try and give warnings, maybe more like verbal warnings, and haven't maybe escalated it, put it on the board, and then follow through removing students.
Okay, so we have seen some progress. So we do think that there's that we're seeing some movement towards where we need to be. But are you confident in the behaviour policy? You know how the structure works and what you're expected to do if you see some behaviour from students that isn't appropriate?
Yeah, I always recommend to go see some other teachers and see it in place in other lessons. I just think I need to be a bit more brave, I suppose, just getting those names on the board and getting the habit of it. Okay,
fantastic. So from here, what we're going to look to do is we're going to keep you on this particular support plan. So we're not going to escalate it because we do see that you've made huge progress in those first 2 targets. Yeah. However, we are going to extend it for a further 2 weeks. Okay. Now, obviously, that means that we're going to need to see lots of progress within that 1 target, because that's going to be the only remaining target you're going to have. Okay, so the other 2 we're just going to keep on as you have been doing now, so it's become part of your practice. So what I'm going to recommend you to do is I'm going to recommend you 3 colleagues that I'd like you to go and see that are really effective behaviour managers, and I'd like that to happen in the next week or so. And I'm going to free up some time for you to be able to do that additional to your ECT time. And then by the end of that 2 weeks, we'll review again. And I'd like you to bring some evidence to that meeting that proves that you have embedded that in your practice. Okay, so that might be some positive phone calls home, some records of that. It could be restorative conversations you're having with students. It could be the pictures of the whiteboard at the end of a lesson where you've got lots of names of students. Obviously, I'm not encouraging you to get lots of names on the board, but if you see behaviour that isn't appropriate.
Okay, yeah.
All right?
Yeah, makes sense.
Everything clear there?
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Okay, perfect. So the new date will be the 6th of December.
Yeah.
Okay, and we'll have another meeting to check in on that particular target.
Okay. Right.
Okay.
Thanks for your time.
Okay, so now we'll go for if it's a bit more difficult and you want to escalate this to an action plan. So the support plan hasn't worked, we haven't seen progress, and this could be a bit more challenging. Again, we won't have Ben being a kind of difficult ECT and kind of arguing the fact at this point. We'll do a separate video for that. But this is just to kind of explain how you might handle that conversation if you want to escalate to an action plan. Okay, so let's go back into acting mode. Okay. Morning, Ben. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
So, as you know, you've been on a support plan. We had our midpoint review, didn't we, where we said that there was a lack of progress in those 3 key areas, and we were hoping that over the next 2 weeks between the midpoint review and this endpoint that we would see some improvement.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, that isn't the case, okay? So I've spoken to numerous colleagues and I've gathered lots of evidence, and unfortunately, you've had 3 lesson observations over the last 2 weeks, drop-ins or formal kind of more formal, staying for a little bit longer in your lessons, and we haven't seen a lesson objective that's been planned and also visible to the students in lessons that we needed it to be on the support plan. Okay. So at this point, I can't say that you've achieved that, but that's embedded. I'm confident it's embedded in your practice. Okay. The second one is behaviour. Now, unfortunately, within those lesson visits, there was a number of occasions where students should have received a warning. Okay, they haven't met the school expectations. You failed to do that, I'm afraid, in your class. And also, there's been a number of occasions where students have left the classroom without, when they shouldn't be outside of the classroom, saying that they've been given permission to visit the toilet, etc., when they don't have a toilet pass. That's against our behaviour policy. Okay. Also, there's still concerns around tutor time. So there have been a couple of occasions where the head of year has had to step in and run the first few minutes of your tutor time because you were late to tutor time. And there was 3 occasions where students have gone to the head of year and said that they haven't got the messaging. Okay, so you can see how all 3 of these targets we're still seeing that we need to work on all 3 of those. All right, so just to explain the process now, Ben, what we're going to do is we're going to escalate this to an action plan. Okay, so what that means is that it becomes a bit more formal, and I need you to be aware that we're starting to get concerned about these 3 things within your practice. Okay, it will still be handled with me, the IT, and with you. There won't be any involvement in terms of other senior staff at this point. We are going to keep the targets exactly the same, okay, and we're going to put a few more things in place to support you. But I really need you to kind of understand, Ben, that we're struggling to see progress in any of these key areas. If this does continue, then it will continue to escalate in kind of its urgency in terms of us needing to see some improvement, okay, because these are obviously key components to effective teaching that we're not seeing in your practice. Okay. All right. Yeah. So what we will do is set a new date. Okay. So this action plan is going to last for 4 weeks from today. Okay. So that will be the 14th of December. Yeah. I will meet with you midpoint through this plan, as will United AB. They'll meet with you at the midpoint, and then we'll meet at the end point, and hopefully we'll see lots of success in these areas. Okay. So now what we'll do is we'll just go through what success will look like in each target, and then I'll outline what other support we're going to offer you to help you to get back on track. All right? Yeah. Because that's very much what we want, Ben. We want you to be back on track, confidently teaching in this school. Okay. All right? Yeah. Okay. So hopefully that's helpful.